She was dying in the snow when the king found her, but she didn't bow. Kayla Thorne had lost everything, betrayed by the man she loved, cast out by her clan, left to starve in the frozen wasteland with her dying sister. But when King Draven Varkos declared her his fated mate in front of the entire court, she did the unthinkable. She ran. Because Kayla had learned the hardest truth: trust is deadlier than cold. And no bond, no matter how ancient, would chain her again. Stay until the end to see how a broken outcast becomes the most feared queen in the realm. Drop a like, comment what city you're watching from, and let's begin. The wind cut through Valdrin like a blade made of winter itself. Kayla Thorne knelt in the snow outside the eastern gate, her hand shaking as she pressed a torn strip of cloth against her sister's forehead. Mira's skin was gray, her breathing rattled. The fever had been burning for 3 days now, and there was nothing left to give her. No medicine, no warmth, no hope, just cold. Kayla, Mira's voice was barely a whisper. You should leave me. Shut up, Kayla said, but her voice cracked. She pulled the threadbare blanket tighter around Mira's shoulders, though it did almost nothing against the wind. I'm not leaving you, I told you that already. Mira's lips trembled into something that might have been a smile. You're stubborn. Yeah, I am. Kayla looked away, blinking hard against the sting in her eyes. It wasn't tears. She didn't cry anymore. Not since the day Gregor had walked away. The memory surged up before she could stop it. You're an embarrassment, Kayla. You always have been. Gregor's voice had been calm, almost kind. That had made it worse. Elira is from a bloodline that matters. She has status, connections. You have nothing. She'd stood there in the center of the clan hall, surrounded by whispers and smirks, and watched him take Elira's hand. Watched the woman who had everything smile at her like she was dirt. And then they had cast her out. No trial, no defense, just out. Because in Valdrin, an Omega without a mate was worth less than livestock. And an Omega who had been rejected wasn't worth the breath it took to say her name. Kayla shook her head, forcing the memory down. That didn't matter now. What mattered was Mira. She glanced toward the citadel gates. Massive, iron-bound, carved with wolves and crescent moons. The moon festival had begun 2 days ago, and the entire kingdom had descended on the capital. Nobles, warriors, merchants, all gathering to celebrate the longest night of the year and witness the king's annual address. King Draven Varkos. The name alone was enough to make people flinch. He was a legend in Valdrin, ruthless, untouchable, feared by enemies and allies alike. They said he had never taken a mate, never bonded, never shown weakness. Kayla didn't care about legends. She cared about the fact that the royal healers were inside those walls, and Mira was dying out here. Kayla, Mira's hand found hers, cold and trembling. Don't do something stupid. Kayla looked down at her sister. Mira was 2 years younger, but she had always been the careful one, the smart one, the one who thought before she acted. Kayla had never been good at that. I'm getting you inside, Kayla said quietly. They won't let you. Then I'll make them. Mira's eyes widened. You can't watch me. Kayla stood, brushing snow from her knees. Her legs shook. Hunger, exhaustion, cold. But she forced herself upright. She pulled the hood of her cloak lower over her face and bent to scoop Mira into her arms. Mira was too light, far too light. Kayla, no. Save your strength, Kayla muttered, and started walking toward the gate. The distance wasn't far, maybe 50 paces, but every step felt like dragging herself through quicksand. Her bare feet had gone numb hours ago. She couldn't feel her toes anymore. The wind howled around her, whipping her cloak and hair, trying to knock her down. She kept walking. Behind the walls, she could hear music, laughter, the sounds of people who had never known what it was like to be hungry, to be cold, to watch someone you loved fade away because you couldn't save them. Kayla's jaw tightened. She reached the gate. The guards saw her coming. There were 4 of them, all dressed in the black and silver of the royal garrison. They straightened as she approached, hands moving instinctively toward their weapons. Stop right there, one of them called. He was older, with a scar running down his jaw and eyes like flint. His gaze flicked over Kayla's torn cloak, her bare feet, the girl shivering in her arms. Gates closed to refugees. Kayla stopped a few paces away. I need a healer. Not our problem. She's dying. The guard's expression didn't change. Then she'll die outside. Move along. Kayla's jaw tightened. She took another step forward. The guard's hand went to his sword hilt. I said move. I heard you, Kayla said evenly, and I'm asking you to help us. One of the younger guards snorted. He was barely out of his teens, with a patchy beard and cruel eyes. You're not asking, you're begging, and we don't have time for beggars. The older guard waved a hand dismissively. Get out of here before I have you thrown in the stocks. Kayla didn't move. She should have. She knew that. She should have turned around, walked away, found another way. But Mira's breathing was getting worse, and the city was right there. And she was so tired of being pushed aside. So tired of being nothing. Please, she said, and hated how small her voice sounded. Just let me through. I'll leave as soon as she's seen by... You deaf? The younger guard stepped forward, shoving her hard in the shoulder. Kayla stumbled. Mira nearly slipped from her arms. Hey, Kayla snapped, regaining her balance. Watch it. Or what? The guard grinned, showing crooked teeth. You gonna fight me, Omega? The word hit like a slap. Omega. She saw it in their eyes, the dismissal, the contempt, the certainty that she was nothing, less than nothing. Kayla's hands tightened around Mira. I just need a healer. And I just told you to get lost. The guard reached out, grabbing the edge of Kayla's cloak. His fingers twisted in the fabric. Now move before I... Kayla didn't think. She twisted, wrenching free of his grip, and slammed her elbow into his nose. There was a wet crunch. The guard yelped, staggering backward. Blood sprayed across the pristine snow, bright red against white. For a heartbeat, everything was silent. The other guards stared. The people passing nearby stopped and turned. Then the older guard's face went dark. You stupid girl. Kayla turned and ran. She didn't know where she was going. She just ran, clutching Mira against her chest, her bare feet slipping on ice and stone. Shouts erupted behind her. Boots pounded against the cobblestones. Stop her! Don't let her get away! Kayla darted left, into a narrow alley between two stone buildings. The walls pressed close on either side. The ground was slick with frost and something that might have been old blood. Her lungs burned. Her arms screamed. Mira was dead weight against her chest. Come on, just a little further. A hand caught the back of her cloak and yanked hard. Kayla went down, twisting at the last second to shield Mira. Pain exploded through her shoulder as she hit the ground. The impact knocked the air from her lungs. Got you! The young guard snarled, hauling her upright by her hair. Kayla thrashed, kicking, clawing at his wrist. Let go! Another guard grabbed her arm, wrenching it behind her back. The pain was immediate and sharp, white-hot up her shoulder. Stupid girl, the older guard growled, stepping into the alley. His nose was still bleeding, dripping down his chin and onto his armor. You just made this a lot worse for yourself. Kayla spat at him. His hand cracked across her face. Her head snapped to the side. The taste of copper flooded her mouth. Her vision blurred. Throw her in the stocks, the guard said coldly. Let her freeze. Maybe that'll teach her some respect. What about the other one? The younger guard nodded toward Mira, who lay crumpled in the snow a few feet away. The older guard glanced down. His expression didn't change. Leave her. She's already dead. She's not. Kayla lunged, but the guards held her fast. She screamed, fought, tried to break free, but there were too many of them and she was too weak, too hungry, too broken. They dragged her backward, away from Mira, away from the only thing she had left. No! Kayla's voice broke. Please, don't! She needs help! Please! The guard ignored her. They hauled her out of the alley, into the main courtyard. The festival was in full swing. Merchants sold spiced wine and roasted meat from colorful stalls. Musicians played drums and flutes. Dancers spun in bright silks. Everywhere people laughed and celebrated, warm and fed and safe. A crowd had already gathered around the commotion, festival-goers, nobles in fine furs, merchants weighing purses. They stared, whispered, pointed. Kayla barely saw them. Her eyes were on Mira, still lying in the snow back in that alley, unmoving. "Look at this," someone muttered. "An Omega attacking a guard. What is the world coming to?" Probably tried to steal something. They should whip her. They should do worse than that. Kayla's vision swam. She tried to pull free again, but the guard's grips were iron. "Bring the stocks," the older guard ordered. One of the younger ones jogged away. Kayla's heart pounded. She'd seen what happened to people in the stocks during winter. They didn't last long. The cold took them. Or the mockery did. Or they just gave up. She thought of Mira, alone in that alley. And something inside her broke. "Wait." The voice cut through the noise like a blade through silk. Everything stopped. The guards froze. The crowd went silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Kayla looked up. A man stood at the top of the courtyard steps. No, not a man. The king. Draven Varkos was tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in black armor etched with silver wolves. His hair was dark, almost black, pulled back from a face that looked like it had been carved from granite. His eyes were pale gray, cold as winter itself, and they were fixed on Kayla. "Release her," he said quietly. The command was soft, but it carried. The guards hesitated. "Your Majesty," the older one began. "She attacked—" "I said, release her." The tone left no room for argument. The guards let go. Kayla stumbled forward, catching herself on the edge of a stone bench. Her heart was pounding. She didn't understand what was happening. Why would the king intervene? Why would he care? Draven descended the steps slowly, each movement precise and deliberate. The crowd parted around him like water around a stone. No one spoke. No one even breathed too loud. He stopped a few paces away from Kayla. Up close, he was even more intimidating. His presence was overwhelming, heavy, ancient, like standing too close to a fire. Kayla felt her instincts screaming at her to lower her eyes, to submit, to bow, to run. She didn't. She met his gaze head-on. Draven's eyes narrowed. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The world seemed to shrink down to just the two of them, standing in the snow while hundreds watched. Then something shifted in Draven's expression. Something she couldn't name. His brow furrowed, his jaw tightened, his hand moved to his chest, fingers pressing against the armor as if trying to steady himself. "No," he said softly. "It's not possible." Kayla frowned. "What? You?" Draven's voice was rough, strained. "You're—" And then she felt it. A pull. Deep. Instinctive. Undeniable. Like a thread wrapping around her ribs and yanking. Kayla's breath caught. Her vision blurred. The world tilted sideways. Heat rushed through her body, followed immediately by cold, then heat again. "No, no, no, no." "Mate!" Draven said the word like it was a curse. The crowd erupted. Gasps, whispers, shouts. People surged forward, trying to see, trying to understand. Guards moved to hold them back. Did he say mate? The king has a mate? That's impossible. Look at her. She's nothing. An Omega? The king's mate is an Omega? Kayla took a step back. Then another. Her chest felt like it was caving in. The bond, the thing she had just felt, was still there, coiled around her heart like a living rope, pulling tighter with every second. Draven's gaze locked onto hers. "Don't." She turned and ran. Kayla didn't get far. Her legs, already weak from hunger and cold, gave out halfway across the courtyard. She collapsed against the base of a stone fountain, gasping for air. The bond, the thing she refused to name, was still there, pulsing under her skin like a second heartbeat. She pressed a hand to her sternum, trying to breathe through it. This can't be real. This can't be happening. Footsteps approached, slow, deliberate. Kayla looked up to find Draven standing over her, his expression unreadable. Behind him, the crowd watched with hungry eyes. "You felt it," he said. It wasn't a question. Kayla said nothing. Draven crouched, bringing himself to her level. His eyes searched her face. "The bond. You felt it." "I don't care what I felt," Kayla said hoarsely. "I'm not—" "You don't have a choice." "I always have a choice." Draven's jaw tightened. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." Kayla forced herself to her feet, swaying. Her legs shook, but she stayed upright through sheer will. You're a king. You're powerful. You think you can just claim me because of some fated bond, Draven finished coldly. And yes, that's exactly what it means. Kayla laughed. It was a bitter, broken sound that scraped out of her throat. Of course. Because I don't get a say. I never do. Draven's eyes flickered with something, confusion, maybe, or annoyance. What are you talking about? Forget it. Kayla turned away, looking toward the alley where she'd left Mira. I need to get to my sister. The girl in the alley. Yes. Draven was silent for a moment. Then he straightened and nodded sharply toward one of the guards. Bring the girl to the healer's wing. Immediately. Give her the best care we have. The guard blinked. Your Majesty, she's just a... Did I stutter? No, Your Majesty. Then move. The guard scrambled to obey, disappearing into the alley. Kayla stared at Draven, stunned. Why would you... Because she's important to you. Draven's voice was flat, matter of fact. And whether you like it or not, you're important to me now. That makes her important. Kayla's hands curled into fists. I didn't ask for this. Neither did I. They stood there locked in a silent standoff while the crowd whispered and the bond between them thrummed like a living thing. A woman pushed through the crowd. She was beautiful, dark hair, flawless skin, dressed in silver and white. Her eyes were sharp as she looked Kayla up and down. Your Majesty, she said smoothly, surely there's been some mistake. This girl is clearly... Lady Saris. Draven's voice was ice. This doesn't concern you. Doesn't concern me? Lady Saris laughed, high and cold. The king's mate concerns the entire court. And I must say, this is unexpected. The way she said it made Kayla's skin crawl. She's filthy, another woman whispered, loud enough to carry. Look at her feet. She's been living in the streets like an animal. An Omega, someone else muttered. The king's mate is a common Omega. What will the other kingdoms say? This is a disgrace. Kayla's face burned. She wanted to scream at them, to tell them they didn't know anything about her, about what she'd survived, but her throat was tight and the words wouldn't come. Draven's expression hardened. Anyone who has a problem with my mate can take it up with me personally. I'm sure we can arrange a duel. The whispers stopped. No one moved. Draven turned back to Kayla. You'll stay in the Citadel, under guard, until we figure this out. I'm not staying anywhere, Kayla said. You don't have a choice. Stop saying that. It's the truth. Draven's voice dropped. You're my mate. That makes you a target. Every enemy I have, and I have many, will come for you the moment they learn you exist. If you leave these walls, you'll be dead within a day. Probably less. Kayla opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. Because he was right. She hated that he was right. She had nothing, no clan, no protection, no weapons, just Mira, who was barely alive, and herself, who wasn't much better. Fine, she said through gritted teeth, but I'm not doing this because you told me to. I'm doing it because Mira needs the healers. Draven inclined his head. Whatever helps you sleep at night. Kayla glared at him. He turned and gestured to two guards. Escort her to the guest wing. Make sure she has everything she needs. Food, water, clean clothes, and station guards at her door. To keep me in? Kayla asked bitterly. To keep others out. Draven's eyes met hers. Not everyone will be happy about this bond. Some may try to remove the problem. The words sent a chill down Kayla's spine. Draven walked away, his black cloak sweeping behind him like a shadow. And Kayla was left standing in the courtyard, surrounded by strangers who looked at her like she was a stain on their perfect festival. Lady Saris stepped closer. You should leave while you still can, she said quietly, before you get hurt. Is that a threat? A warning. Saris smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You don't belong here. You never will. She walked away. Kayla stood there shaking from cold, from fear, from rage she couldn't name. The guards approached. This way, miss. Kayla followed them numbly. As they led her through the citadel, she caught glimpses of the festival, the music, the lights, the warmth, everything she'd been locked out of her entire life. And now she was being dragged into the center of it, whether she wanted to be or not. Just like before, she thought bitterly. Someone else making decisions for me. The guards stopped at a heavy wooden door. "This will be your room," one of them said. "The king ordered food and water brought up. Someone will be by shortly with clothes." Kayla nodded mutely. They opened the door. The room was large, too large. A fire crackled in the hearth. The bed was enormous, piled with furs and blankets. There was a bathing room attached, steam already rising from a copper tub. It was more luxury than Kayla had seen in her entire life. It made her want to scream. "We'll be right outside," the guard said. "If you need anything—" Kayla closed the door in his face. She leaned against it, breathing hard. Her hands were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. The bond pulsed under her skin, a constant reminder that she was tied to a man she didn't know. A king who could probably kill her with one hand. A man who had already taken her choice away. Kayla sank to the floor, drawing her knees to her chest. And for the first time in months, she cried. She didn't know how long she sat there. Eventually, someone knocked. "Miss?" A woman's voice, soft and hesitant. "I have clothes for you, and food." Kayla didn't answer. "I'm leaving them outside the door." Footsteps retreated. Kayla waited until she was sure the woman was gone, then opened the door a crack. A tray sat on the floor. Bread, cheese, roasted meat, a pitcher of water. Next to it was a stack of clean clothes. She pulled them inside and shut the door again. The food smelled good. Too good. Her stomach cramped painfully. But she didn't eat, not yet. First, she stripped off her filthy clothes and stepped into the bathing room. The water was almost too hot, but she didn't care. She sank into it, scrubbing her skin until it was raw, washing away the grime and blood and everything else. When she finally emerged, her skin was pink and her fingers were pruned. She dried off and pulled on the clean clothes. A simple tunic and leggings, soft and warm. They fit perfectly. Someone had guessed her size. Then she sat down and ate. She tried to go slow, but she was too hungry. She devoured the bread, the cheese, the meat, drank the water until the pitcher was empty. When she was done, she felt almost human again. Almost. She walked to the window and looked out. The citadel sprawled below her, courtyards and gardens and towers. Beyond the walls, the city stretched out into the darkness, lights twinkling like stars. And beyond that, the frozen wilderness where she'd nearly died. Kayla pressed her forehead against the cold glass. "What am I doing?" A knock at the door made her jump. "Yes?" she called. "It's the healer," a woman's voice answered. "I have news about your sister." Kayla yanked the door open. The healer was middle-aged, with gray-streaked hair and kind eyes. She smiled gently. "Your sister is stable. The fever broke about an hour ago. She's sleeping now, but she should make a full recovery." Relief hit Kayla so hard she nearly collapsed. She's okay?" "She will be, with rest and care." The healer's expression softened. "You can see her in the morning, if you'd like." "Yes, please." The healer nodded. "Get some rest yourself. You look like you need it." She left. Kayla closed the door and leaned against it. Mira was going to be okay. That was all that mattered. Everything else, the bond, the king, the court, she could deal with later. Right now, she just needed to sleep. She crawled into the enormous bed, burrowing under the furs. And despite everything, she fell asleep within minutes. But she woke to someone pounding on her door. Kayla bolted upright, heart racing. Pale morning light filtered through the window. "What?" she called groggily. "The king requests your presence," a guard's voice answered. "In his study, immediately." Kayla groaned. "Tell him I'm busy." A pause. "He said you'd say that. He also said if you refuse, he'll come get you himself." Kayla threw off the blankets. "Fine. Give me a minute." She dressed quickly, splashed water on her face, and pulled her hair back. When she opened the door, 2 guards were waiting. "This way," one of them said. They led her through a maze of corridors. The citadel was even bigger than she'd thought. Endless hallways lined with tapestries and weapons, staircases that spiraled up into towers. Finally, they stopped at a heavy oak door. One of the guards knocked. "She's here, Your Majesty." "Send her in." The guard opened the door. Kayla stepped inside. The study was large but surprisingly simple. Shelves lined the walls, crammed with books and maps. A fire burned in the hearth. A massive desk dominated the center of the room. Draven stood by the window, his back to her. "Close the door," he said without turning. Kayla did. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Draven turned to face her. In the daylight, he looked different, tired. The shadows under his eyes suggested he hadn't slept. "How's your sister?" he asked. "Alive? Thanks to you." He nodded. "Good." Silence stretched between them. "Why did you help her?" Kayla asked finally. Draven's expression didn't change. "I told you. She's important to you." "That's not a reason." "It's the only reason that matters." Kayla crossed her arms. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." Draven moved to his desk, pouring 2 glasses of wine from a crystal decanter. He held one out to her. Kayla didn't take it. He set it down with a sigh. "We need to talk about the bond." "There's nothing to talk about." "There's everything to talk about." Draven's voice was patient but firm. "Whether you like it or not, we're connected now, fated mates. It's not something either of us can ignore." "Watch me." Draven's jaw tightened. "You're being stubborn. And you're being controlling." "I'm trying to keep you alive." "I don't need you to keep me alive. I've been doing fine on my own." Draven's eyes flicked to her wrists, thin, scarred. To her face, still too pale, too hollow. "Have you?" Kayla's hands curled into fists. Draven sighed. "Look, I know you didn't ask for this, neither did I. But the bond exists. Denying it won't make it go away. It'll only make things harder." "Harder for who?" "For both of us." He ran a hand through his hair. "I can feel you, Kayla. Your fear, your anger. It's like static under my skin." Kayla blinked. "You can feel me?" "Yes, and it'll get stronger the longer we're near each other." He met her eyes. "Can you feel me?" Kayla wanted to lie, but she couldn't, because yes, she could. A low hum at the back of her mind, a presence that hadn't been there before. It was subtle, but it was there. "This is insane," she whispered. "It's the bond." "I don't want it." "Too bad." Draven's voice was blunt. "We're stuck with it, so we need to figure out how to deal with it." Kayla looked away. "I can't do this." "You don't have a choice." "Stop saying that." Draven stepped closer. "Then tell me what you want me to say. Because I'm trying to help you, and you keep pushing me away." "Because I don't trust you." The words exploded out of her. "I don't know you. I don't know what you want from me, and I'm not going to let some magical bond dictate my life." Draven was silent for a long moment. "You've been hurt," he said finally, "by someone." Kayla's throat tightened. "Who was he?" "None of your business." "Kayla, no." She stepped back. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to pretend you care. You're doing this because of the bond, not because of me." Draven's expression hardened. "You're right. I don't know you, but I want to, and whether you believe it or not, I'm trying." Kayla shook her head. "I need to see my sister." "Then go." She turned toward the door. "Kayla." She stopped but didn't look back. "This bond isn't going away," Draven said quietly. "Sooner or later, you're going to have to accept it." Kayla walked out without answering. Set. The healer's wing was quiet when she arrived. Mira was awake, sitting up in bed and sipping broth from a wooden bowl. Color had returned to her cheeks. "Kayla," she said, her face lighting up. Kayla crossed the room and pulled her into a hug. "You're okay." "I'm okay." Mira pulled back, searching Kayla's face. "What happened?" "The healer said we're in the Citadel, but she wouldn't tell me why." Kayla sat on the edge of the bed. "It's complicated." "Try me." So Kayla told her. Everything. The guards, the courtyard, the king, the bond. Mira's eyes grew wider with every word. "You're the king's mate?" she whispered. "Apparently." "Kayla, that's terrible, I know." "I was going to say incredible." Mira grabbed her hand. "You're going to be queen." "I'm not going to be anything." Kayla pulled her hand away. "I'm leaving as soon as you're strong enough to travel." Mira's face fell. Where would we go? Kayla opened her mouth, then closed it. Because she didn't have an answer. They had no clan, no home, no money. Winter was closing in. Leaving would be a death sentence. I don't know, Kayla admitted, but I'll figure something out. Mira looked at her for a long moment. Or you could stay. No. Kayla, I'm not staying with him, Mira. I can't. Why not? Because Kayla's voice broke. Because I can't go through that again. I can't trust someone just to have them throw me away when I'm not good enough. Mira's expression softened. He's not Gregor. You don't know that. Neither do you. Kayla looked away. Mira squeezed her hand. I know you're scared. I would be too. But maybe this is your chance to have something better. I don't want better. I just want to survive. Kayla, Mira's voice was gentle. We're already surviving. Maybe it's time to start living. Kayla didn't answer, because she didn't know how. Kayla stayed with Mira for the rest of the morning, helping her eat, talking about nothing in particular. Anything to avoid thinking about the bond. About Draven. About the fact that she was trapped in a citadel full of people who already hated her. By midday, a servant arrived with a message. Lady Kayla, the young woman said, bowing slightly. The king requests that you join him for the evening meal, in the great hall. Kayla's stomach dropped. Tell him I'm not hungry. The servant's eyes widened. I can't do that, my lady. I'm not a lady. The king said, I don't care what he said. Kayla stood. I'm not going. The servant looked like she might cry. Please. He was very insistent. If I come back without you, Mira touched Kayla's arm. Just go. It's one meal. You don't understand. I understand that you're making this harder than it needs to be. Mira's voice was gentle but firm. Go, eat. Show them you're not afraid. Kayla wanted to argue, but the look in Mira's eyes stopped her. She sighed. Fine. One meal. The servant looked relieved. Thank you, my lady. I'll inform the king. She hurried away. Kayla turned to Mira. I hate this. I know. Mira smiled. But you're good at hating things. Use it. Despite everything, Kayla almost smiled. The Great Hall was exactly as intimidating as Kayla had imagined. It was massive, high-vaulted ceilings, stone pillars carved with wolves and moons, long tables stretching the length of the room. Hundreds of people filled the benches, all dressed in fine clothes, all talking and laughing and drinking. They fell silent when Kayla entered. Every eye turned toward her. Kayla forced herself to keep walking. The servant led her toward the high table at the far end of the hall, where Draven sat in a carved wooden chair that looked more like a throne. He stood when he saw her. Kayla, he said, his voice carrying across the silence. Join me. It wasn't a request. Kayla climbed the steps to the high table. A chair had been placed beside Draven's. She sat, keeping her spine straight, her face blank. The hall slowly came back to life. Conversations resumed, though quieter now, wary. Draven sat beside her. You came. I was threatened. You were invited. Same thing. A flicker of something, amusement, crossed his face. You're not easy. Good. A servant appeared with a platter of food, roasted venison, glazed vegetables, thick slices of bread. Kayla's stomach growled despite herself. She ate slowly, aware of the stares, aware of the whispers. They're talking about you, Draven said quietly. I noticed. Does it bother you? Should it? Draven's eyes flicked toward her. Most people would be intimidated. I'm not most people. No. His voice dropped. You're not. Kayla didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing. A woman approached the table. It was Lady Ceres, the one from yesterday. She curtsied deeply, her smile sharp. Your Majesty, she said. May I speak freely? You're going to anyway, Draven said. Ceres's smile didn't falter. The court is concerned about your choice of mate. My choice? Draven's voice was cold. The Bon Cho. I didn't. Of course, Your Majesty, but surely you see how this looks. An Omega, a refugee, someone with no bloodline, no status. Someone who survived what would have killed most of your soft courtiers, Draven interrupted. Someone with more strength in her little finger than half this hall combined. Cerys' smile tightened. Strength is admirable, but it doesn't make her suitable to be queen. That's not your decision to make. No, but it is the court's decision whether to accept her. Cerys' eyes slid to Kayla, and I'm afraid the general consensus is skeptical. Kayla set down her fork. I don't need your acceptance. Don't you? Cerys tilted her head. A queen without the support of her court is just a woman in a crown, and you don't even have that yet. Enough! Draven's voice cut through the hall like a whip. Lady Cerys, you're dismissed. Cerys curtsied again. As you wish, your majesty. She walked away, but the damage was done. The whispers grew louder. Kayla's hands clenched in her lap. She wanted to leave, to run, but that would prove them right, so she stayed. She finished her meal in silence while the court watched and judged and whispered. When it was finally over, Draven stood. Walk with me. It wasn't a request. Kayla followed him out of the hall, down a corridor, and into a quieter wing of the citadel. They stopped on a balcony overlooking the city. The moon was rising, full and bright. I'm sorry, Draven said. Kayla blinked. What? For Cerys. For the court. For all of it. He leaned against the railing. They shouldn't have spoken to you that way. Why didn't you stop them sooner? Because you need to see what you're up against. Draven's voice was quiet. If you stay, this is what it'll be like. Every day. They'll question you, test you, try to break you. I'm already broken, Kayla said bitterly. Draven looked at her. No, you're not. You don't know me. I'm starting to. Kayla turned away. Why do you even want this? You could reject the bond, find someone more suitable. I can't reject it. Neither can you. It doesn't work that way. Draven's jaw tightened. And even if I could, I wouldn't. Why not? Because I've spent 30 years without a mate. 30 years watching my court play their games, watching enemies circle, knowing I had no weakness they could exploit. And then you appeared. He paused, and everything changed. Kayla's chest tightened. I'm not a weapon you can use. I know. Draven's voice softened. But you could be a partner, if you wanted. I don't. I know that too. They stood in silence, the wind cold against their faces. There's going to be a challenge, Draven said finally. Kayla frowned. What kind of challenge? A formal one. Someone from the court will demand proof that you're worthy to stand beside me. And if I'm not, then they'll try to remove you, legally or otherwise. Draven's eyes met hers. I can protect you from assassination. I can't protect you from being publicly humiliated. Kayla's stomach twisted. When? 3 days, during the blood moon ceremony. What do I have to do? Prove yourself, however they decide to test you. Draven hesitated. I can refuse the challenge, but it'll make you look weak. Then don't refuse it. Draven's eyes widened slightly. You're sure? No? Kayla's voice was steady, despite the fear crawling up her spine. But I'm not going to hide. For the first time, Draven smiled. It was small, barely there, but real. Good, he said. The next 2 days passed in a blur. Kayla spent most of her time with Mira, who was growing stronger by the hour. The healer said she'd make a full recovery within the week. But Kayla couldn't shake the dread building in her chest. On the 3rd day, a servant brought her a dress. It was beautiful, deep blue silk with silver embroidery along the hem and sleeves, far finer than anything Kayla had ever worn. For the ceremony, the servant explained. Kayla stared at it. I'm not wearing that. The king insists. Of course he does. But when the time came, she put it on. It fit perfectly, too perfectly, like it had been made for her. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. A knock at the door. It's time, a guard called. Kayla took a deep breath and opened the door. They led her to the great hall again, but this time it was different. The tables had been cleared. Torches lined the walls. The entire court stood in a circle, watching. Draven stood at the center, dressed in black and silver. His expression was unreadable. Kayla walked toward him, her heart pounding. The crowd parted. A woman stepped forward. She was tall, muscular, with short-cropped hair and scars along her arms. A warrior. "I am Commander Vessa," she said, her voice ringing through the hall. "And I challenge the king's mate." Kayla's blood went cold. Draven's jaw tightened. On what grounds? On the grounds that she is unworthy, that she has no strength, no skill, no place beside a king. Vessa's eyes locked on Kayla. "I challenge her to single combat." The hall erupted. Kayla's mind raced. She'd never been trained to fight, never held a real weapon. This wasn't a test. It was an execution. Draven stepped forward. "I refuse the challenge." "You can't," Vessa said. "By law, the challenged has the right to accept or decline. Not you." Draven's eyes found Kayla's. There was something desperate in them. "Don't do this." Kayla looked at Vessa, at the court, at the faces staring at her with contempt and curiosity and hunger. She thought of Gregor, of being cast out, of every time someone had told her she was nothing. "I accept," she said. The hall fell silent. Draven's face went pale. "Kayla, I accept," she repeated, louder. Vessa smiled. "Good. Choose your weapon." A servant brought forward a table covered in blades, swords, daggers, axes. Kayla had no idea which to choose. She reached for a short sword, hoping it would be easier to handle. Vessa picked up a long sword like it weighed nothing. They moved to the center of the circle. Kayla's hands were shaking. She gripped the sword tighter, trying to steady herself. Vessa circled her slowly. Last chance to walk away. No. Brave. Stupid, but brave. Then she attacked. Kayla barely got her sword up in time. The impact rattled her bones. She stumbled back. Vessa pressed forward, her strikes fast and brutal. Kayla blocked desperately, her arms screaming with each blow. The crowd roared. Kayla's back hit the wall. Vessa's sword came down. Kayla rolled sideways. The blade struck stone, sparks flying. She scrambled to her feet, gasping. Vessa turned, unbothered. "You can't win. You know that, right?" Kayla didn't answer. She was too busy trying to breathe. Vessa lunged. Kayla dodged left, slashing wildly. The blade caught Vessa's arm, drawing blood. Vessa looked down at the cut. Then she laughed. "Not bad, but not enough." She swung again, faster this time. Kayla blocked, but the force sent her sprawling. Her sword skittered across the floor. Vessa stood over her, blade at her throat. "Yield," she said. Kayla's chest heaved. Blood roared in her ears. She could yield. End this. Walk away. But then what? They'd never respect her, never accept her. She'd always be the Omega who couldn't even defend herself. "No," Kayla said. Vessa frowned. "What?" "I said no." And then Kayla felt it. The thing she'd been pushing down since the moment she'd met Draven. The bond. It surged through her, hot and electric and overwhelming. Power flooded her veins, burning like liquid fire. Her vision sharpened. Her senses exploded, and deep inside something ancient woke up. Kayla's eyes snapped open. They were glowing, silver. Vessa stumbled back. "What?" Kayla stood, her body moving on instinct. She didn't reach for the sword. She didn't need it, because she wasn't just Kayla anymore. She was something else. Her bones shifted. Her skin rippled. And then she was changing, her body reshaping itself into something wild and powerful. The transformation took seconds. When it was over, a massive silver wolf stood where Kayla had been. The hall went silent. No one moved. No one breathed, because silver wolves were extinct. They'd been hunted to nothing centuries ago, their bloodline lost to time. But here one stood, in the center of the great hall, eyes glowing like moonlight. Vessa dropped her sword. The wolf, Kayla, growled low. Then she lunged. Vessa didn't stand a chance. Kayla pinned her to the ground in seconds, teeth at her throat. "Yield!" Draven's voice cut through the silence. "Commander, yield!" Vessa's voice was a rasp. "I yield." Kayla held her there for another heartbeat. Then she released her and stepped back. The transformation reversed, bones cracking, skin smoothing. Kayla collapsed to her knees, naked and shaking. Someone threw a cloak over her. Draven was there, kneeling beside her. Are you hurt? Kayla shook her head. She couldn't speak, couldn't think. Draven pulled her to her feet and turned to face the court. Anyone else want to challenge her? His voice was ice. No one answered. Good. He looked at Kayla. Come on, let's get you out of here. He led her out of the hall, away from the stares and whispers, but Kayla could still feel them watching, still feel the weight of what she'd just revealed, and she knew everything had just changed. They didn't speak until they reached Draven's chambers. He sat her down by the fire and poured her wine. Kayla's hands were still shaking too badly to hold the glass. What just happened? She whispered. You shifted. Draven's voice was calm, but his eyes were intense. Into a silver wolf. That's impossible. Clearly not. Kayla looked down at her hands. They looked normal now, but she could still feel it, the power, coiled just beneath her skin. How? She asked. The bond. Draven sat across from her. It must have triggered something dormant in your bloodline. My bloodline is nothing. I'm an omega, a nobody. You're not a nobody. Draven leaned forward. Silver wolves were the original ruling class of Valdrin. Centuries ago, they led armies, commanded kingdoms. They were the most powerful shifters that ever lived. And they're extinct. Were extinct. Draven's eyes met hers. Until now. Kayla's mind spun. This doesn't make sense. If I had that kind of bloodline, someone would have known. My clan would have... Your clan threw you out, Draven said bluntly. Maybe they didn't know. Or maybe they did, and they were afraid. Kayla's chest tightened. Either way, Draven continued, you can't hide this anymore. The entire court saw what you are. What am I? The most powerful shifter in Valdrin. He paused. And my mate. Kayla looked at him, really looked at him. For the first time, she saw something other than cold calculation in his eyes. She saw fear. You're afraid of me, she said. I'm afraid for you. Draven's voice dropped. Do you know what people will do when they realize what you are? The power you represent? Kill me? Try to control you, use you, turn you into a weapon. He stood, pacing. There are kingdoms that would go to war just to possess a silver wolf. Kayla's hands curled into fists. I'm not a possession. I know. Draven stopped, looking at her. But they don't, and they'll come for you. Soon. The weight of it hit her all at once. She'd thought revealing her power would prove her worth. Instead, she'd painted a target on her back. What do I do? She asked quietly. Draven knelt in front of her, taking her hands. You learn to control it, to fight, to protect yourself. His grip tightened. And you let me help you. Kayla wanted to pull away, wanted to run. But for the first time since this all began, she didn't. Because Draven was right about one thing. She couldn't do this alone. Okay, she whispered. Draven's eyes widened slightly. Okay? Don't make me say it again. A small smile tugged at his lips. I wouldn't dream of it. Kayla returned to her room later that night, exhausted and overwhelmed. But when she opened the door, she froze. Mira was sitting on her bed, and she wasn't alone. Lady Saris stood beside her, a dagger pressed to Mira's throat. Hello, Kayla, Saris said pleasantly. We need to talk. If you or someone you know is having a difficult time, free support is available. Find resources. Kayla's world narrowed to three things. The dagger at Mira's throat, the cold smile on Saris's face, and the rage building in her chest like a wildfire. Let her go, Kayla said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were already trembling with the effort of not shifting right there. Close the door, Saris said pleasantly. Quietly. And don't even think about calling for the guards. Kayla hesitated. The blade pressed closer. A thin line of red appeared on Mira's skin. Kayla closed the door. Good. Saris's smile widened. Now we can talk like civilized people. There's nothing civilized about holding a knife to someone's throat. No? I thought it was rather efficient. Saris tilted her head. Your sister is quite lovely. It would be a shame if something happened to her. Mira's eyes were wide with terror, but she didn't make a sound. Kayla forced herself to breathe. What do you want? What I've always wanted. For you to leave. Theris's tone was conversational, like they were discussing the weather. You don't belong here, Kayla. You never did. And now that everyone knows what you are, you've become a problem that needs to be solved. So you're going to kill me? Kill you? Don't be dramatic. Ceres laughed. I'm giving you a choice. Leave Valdrin tonight, take your sister, disappear, and I'll make sure you have enough gold to start over somewhere far away. And if I don't? Ceres's smile faded. Then your sister dies. Tonight. And you'll spend the rest of your short life wondering if you could have saved her. Kayla's fists clenched. The power inside her stirred, responding to her fury. She could feel the shift starting, bones ready to crack, muscles ready to reshape. I wouldn't, Ceres said softly. The moment you transform, I cut her throat. And even a silver wolf can't bring back the dead. Kayla froze. That's better. Ceres's smile returned. Now, what's it going to be? Kayla looked at Mira. Her sister's face was pale, tears streaming down her cheeks. I'm sorry, Mira mouthed. Kayla's throat tightened. She could fight. She could try to save Mira, try to overpower Ceres before the blade fell. But the risk, the chance that she'd be too slow, that Mira would die because Kayla had been too stubborn to walk away. Fine, Kayla said. We'll leave. Ceres's eyebrows rose. Just like that? Just like that. How disappointing. I expected more fight from the legendary Silver Wolf. Ceres stepped away from Mira, but kept the dagger ready. You have until dawn. Pack light. And if I hear that you've spoken to the king or anyone else, the deal is off. Understood. Ceres walked to the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I almost respect you. You survived things that would have broken most people. But survival isn't enough. Not here. She opened the door. Goodbye, Kayla. She left. The moment the door closed, Mira collapsed. Kayla caught her, holding her tight. I'm sorry, Mira sobbed. I'm so sorry. I tried to scream, but she was so fast. It's okay. You're okay. Kayla stroked her hair, her mind racing. They couldn't leave. Not really. Ceres would have them killed the moment they stepped outside the Citadel gates. This wasn't mercy. It was a cleaner way to get rid of them. But if they stayed, Mira was a target, and Kayla couldn't protect her every second. Kayla, Mira whispered, what are we going to do? Kayla pulled back, looking at her sister. You're going to hide, and I'm going to end this. Well, Kayla took Mira to the healer's wing. It was the safest place in the Citadel, always guarded, always watched. Stay here, Kayla said. Don't leave for any reason. If anyone asks, tell them you're still recovering. Where are you going? To find Draven. Mira grabbed her arm. Ceres said, I don't care what Ceres said. Kayla's voice was hard. She threatened you. She threatened us. I'm not running anymore. Kayla, I'll be back. I promise. Before Mira could argue, Kayla left. She found Draven at the war room, bent over a map with 3 of his commanders. They looked up when she entered. Out, Draven said. The commanders exchanged glances but obeyed, filing out quickly. When they were alone, Draven straightened. What's wrong? Ceres came to my room. She had a knife to Mira's throat. Draven's expression went dark. Is your sister hurt? No, but Ceres gave me until dawn to leave Valdrin or she'd kill her. Draven was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was lethal. Where is Ceres now? I don't know. Her chambers, maybe. Stay here. No. Kayla stepped in front of him. You can't just arrest her. She's nobility. She has allies. If you move against her without proof, it'll look like you're protecting me because of the bond. It'll make things worse. Draven's jaw tightened. Then what do you suggest? Let me handle it. Absolutely not. Why not? Because she tried to kill your sister. Because she's dangerous. Because... He stopped himself. Because what? Because I can't lose you. The words came out raw. Not now. Not when I just found you. Kayla's chest tightened. She wanted to be angry at him for being controlling, for thinking he could decide what she did. But the fear in his eyes was real. You won't lose me, she said quietly. But I need to do this. For Mira. For myself. How? Kayla thought fast. The blood moon ceremony. It's tomorrow night, isn't it? Yes. And it's tradition for the court to present grievances publicly, to ask for the king's justice. Draven's eyes narrowed. You want to accuse her in front of everyone? Yes. You'll need witnesses, proof. I have Mira. They'll say she's lying to protect you. You need more. Draven moved to the window, thinking. Cerys is careful. She wouldn't have come to your room without making sure no one saw her. Then we make her confess. How? Kayla smiled, sharp and cold. We give her what she wants, Sean. The plan was simple and dangerous. Kayla would pretend to flee. She'd be seen leaving the Citadel in the middle of the night, making it look like she'd taken Cerys's deal. Draven would act enraged, publicly accusing Kayla of abandoning the bond, and Cerys, thinking she'd won, would get careless. This is a terrible idea, Draven said for the third time. They were in his chambers going over the details. It was well past midnight. You have a better one? Kayla asked. Yes, I arrest Cerys now and deal with the political fallout later. That won't work and you know it. Draven rubbed his face. If this goes wrong, it won't. You don't know that. No. But I know I can't spend the rest of my life waiting for someone to put a knife to Mira's throat again. Kayla met his eyes. I have to do this. Draven stared at her for a long moment, then he sighed. Fine. But you're not doing it alone. I'll have guards following you, at a distance. If anything goes wrong, they pull me out. I know. Kayla stood. We should get started. Dawn isn't far off. Draven stood too, moving closer. Kayla. She looked up at him. Be careful, he said quietly. I will. For a moment, they just stood there. The bond hummed between them, warm and insistent. Then Draven did something unexpected. He kissed her forehead. It was gentle, brief, but it made Kayla's breath catch. Come back, he said. I will, she whispered. Good. Leaving the Citadel was easier than Kayla expected. She dressed in traveling clothes, packed a small bag, and slipped out through a side entrance. The guards on duty pretended not to see her. Draven had arranged that much. The city was dark and quiet. Snow had started falling again, thick and heavy. Kayla walked quickly, her breath misting in the cold. She headed toward the eastern gate, the same one she'd been turned away from just days ago. Behind her, staying to the shadows, Draven's guards followed. She was almost to the gate when she heard footsteps. Leaving so soon? Kayla turned. Cerys stood in the middle of the street, flanked by two men. They were big, armed, and wore no house colors. Mercenaries. Kayla's stomach dropped. You said dawn. I lied, Cerys smiled. Did you really think I'd let you leave? You're too dangerous to let live, Kayla, silver wolf or not. The mercenaries drew their weapons. Kayla backed up. The guards will hear. The guards have been paid to stay away from this street. Cerys tilted her head. It's just us. And my friends here are very good at making deaths look like accidents. Kayla's hands curled into fists. The shift was already building inside her, power flooding her veins. I wouldn't, Cerys said. My men have crossbows. You might kill one of us, but the bolts will take you down before you finish. Kayla glanced around. The street was empty. The shadows where Draven's guard should have been, also empty. She was alone. Any last words? Cerys asked. Kayla looked at her. Just one. And what's that? Now. Draven stepped out of an alley behind Cerys, sword drawn. At the same moment, a dozen royal guards emerged from doorways and rooftops surrounding them. Cerys's face went white. You were right about one thing, Draven said coldly. Guards can be paid to look away. But my personal guard? They can't be bought. The mercenaries dropped their weapons. Cerys turned to run, but two guards caught her. No, she hissed, struggling. You can't prove anything. I just did. Draven nodded toward a window above them. A scribe stood there, holding a ledger. Every word you said was recorded. By royal decree, confession of attempted murder is grounds for immediate arrest. Cerys's struggles stopped. She looked at Kayla, hatred burning in her eyes. You think this changes anything? The court will never accept you. You'll always be— Enough, Draven snapped. Take her to the dungeons. She'll stand trial at the Blood Moon ceremony. The guards dragged Cerys away. Kayla stood in the snow shaking, not from cold, from adrenaline. Draven approached her. Are you hurt? Kayla shook her head. Good. He glanced at the guards. Secure the area. Make sure those mercenaries talk. The guards moved quickly. Draven turned back to Kayla. That was reckless. It worked. Barely. But it did. Kayla met his eyes. She confessed. You have her. We have her. Draven's voice softened. You did this. Not me. Kayla didn't know what to say to that. Draven held out his hand. Come on, let's get you inside before you freeze. Kayla took it. His hand was warm, solid, and for the first time since this nightmare began, she felt safe. The Blood Moon ceremony was held in the Citadel's main courtyard. Thousands gathered, nobility, commoners, guards, merchants. Everyone who lived within the Citadel walls came to witness the king's justice. Kayla stood on the platform beside Draven, wearing another dress someone had picked for her. This one was silver, like her wolf form. It felt deliberate. Below them, Cerys knelt in chains. Draven addressed the crowd. Lady Cerys stands accused of attempted murder, of threatening the king's mate and her sister, of hiring mercenaries to kill within Citadel walls. His voice rang out, clear and cold. The evidence has been heard. The witnesses have spoken. Does anyone here dispute these charges? Silence. Cerys's allies, and she'd had many, said nothing. Then by the law of Valdrin, Draven continued, Lady Cerys is found guilty. Her lands are forfeit. Her title revoked. And she is hereby banished from the kingdom, effective immediately. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Banishment was worse than death in winter. Cerys would be lucky to survive a week. Cerys looked up, her face twisted with rage. You'll regret this, both of you. She'll destroy you, Draven. That Omega will be your downfall. Take her away, Draven said. Guards hauled Cerys to her feet and dragged her toward the gates. The crowd watched in silence. When she was gone, Draven turned to Kayla. Are you all right? Yes. Good, because we're not done. Kayla frowned. What do you mean? Draven addressed the crowd again. As you all witnessed 2 nights ago, my mate revealed herself to be a silver wolf. The first seen in centuries, he paused. Some of you have questioned whether she's worthy to stand beside me, whether she has the strength, the nobility, the bloodline. Kayla's chest tightened. Where was he going with this? I propose we settle it, Draven said. Tonight, according to the old laws. Murmurs spread through the crowd. What are you doing? Kayla whispered. Giving you what you need, Draven said quietly. Respect. He raised his voice. The old laws state that any Omega claiming the right to rule must prove their worth through the trial of the moon. 3 challenges. Strength, wisdom, heart. If she passes, no one can question her place, ever. The crowd erupted in whispers. Kayla's mind raced. You didn't tell me about this. Because you would have refused. You're right. I would have. It's too late now. Draven looked at her. The trial has been invoked. You can refuse, but then I'll look weak. Yes. Kayla wanted to scream, but she saw the calculation in his eyes. He'd backed her into a corner, but he'd done it to help her. She hated him a little for it. Fine, she said. What do I have to do? What? The trial of the moon began an hour later. The first challenge was strength. They brought out a massive stone, easily 1,000 pounds, and set it in the center of the courtyard. Lift it, the Master of Trials said, or move it 10 paces. Either will suffice. Kayla stared at the stone. There was no way. Not in human form. You can shift, Draven said quietly. I don't know how. It just happens when I'm angry or scared. Then get angry. Kayla looked at the crowd, at their doubtful faces, their smirks. She thought of Gregor, of being cast out, of Cerys with a knife to Mira's throat. The rage came easily. The shift followed, bones cracked, skin rippled, and then she was the wolf again, massive and silver and powerful. The crowd gasped. Kayla approached the stone. She put her shoulder against it and pushed. It didn't move. She pushed harder, still nothing. Her paws slipped on the stone. Frustration built. She growled, throwing all her weight against it. The stone shifted. An inch, then another. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Kayla, teeth bared, muscles straining, pushed the stone across the courtyard. 1 pace, 2, 5, 10. When she finished, she collapsed, panting. The shift reversed. She lay on the cold stone, naked and shaking. Someone threw a cloak over her. "The first challenge is past," the Master of Trials announced. Weak applause rippled through the crowd. Kayla forced herself to stand. Her legs shook, but she stayed upright. Draven was there, his hand steadying her. "Well done." "What's next?" she asked hoarsely. "Wisdom." They brought her to a table where 3 goblets sat. "One contains poison," the master said. "One contains water, one contains wine. Choose correctly and drink. Choose wrong, and—" He shrugged. Kayla stared at the goblets. They looked identical. "How am I supposed to know which is which?" "That's the challenge." Kayla's mind raced. There had to be a trick, a clue. She leaned closer, studying them. The liquid in each looked the same, smelled the same. Then she noticed something. The middle goblet had a tiny mark on the rim, like someone had scratched it. A warning or a marker? Kayla thought of Ceres, of the court's games, of how they loved their tricks. If this was truly about wisdom, they wouldn't make it obvious. She reached for the goblet on the left. "Wait," Draven said sharply. Kayla paused. "You can refuse," he said quietly. "Forfeit the challenge." "And prove them right?" "No." Kayla picked up the goblet. "If I'm going to die, I'm doing it my way." She drank. The liquid was cold. Sweet. Wine. Kayla set down the empty goblet. The Master of Trials nodded slowly. "The second challenge is past." Louder applause this time. Kayla's hands were still shaking. That had been pure luck. "One more," Draven said. "What's the third challenge?" "Heart." They led her to a different part of the courtyard. 2 people stood there, hooded and bound. Kayla's stomach dropped. "The final challenge," the master said, "is to choose. One of these people is guilty of treason against the crown. One is innocent. You must decide which to execute." "No," Kayla said immediately. "This is the challenge. Choose or forfeit. I'm not executing anyone." "Then you fail." Draven stepped forward, removed their hoods. The guards obeyed. Kayla's breath caught. On the left was a man she didn't recognize, older, scarred, with cold eyes. On the right was a woman, young, terrified, and pregnant. "This is insane," Kayla said. "I'm not doing this." "You must," the master said, "or you forfeit." Kayla looked at Draven. "You knew about this?" His face was unreadable. "The trial is law. I can't change it." Kayla wanted to scream, to shift and tear the whole courtyard apart, but that wouldn't help. She looked at the 2 prisoners. The man stared at her with hatred. The woman was crying. "Tell me their crimes," Kayla said. "That is not part of the trial," the master said. "Then make it part of the trial." Kayla's voice was steel. "Tell me, or I walk away right now and you can all go to hell." The master hesitated, then he nodded to a guard. The guard stepped forward. "The man is accused of selling intelligence to enemy kingdoms. The woman is accused of poisoning a nobleman's wine." Kayla looked at the woman. "Did you do it?" The woman sobbed. "I didn't have a choice. He hurt me. He hurt my family. I just wanted him to stop." "Enough," the master snapped. Kayla looked at the man. "And you?" The man spat at her feet. Kayla closed her eyes. This wasn't about guilt or innocence. This was about proving she could make hard choices. Cold choices. The kind a queen would have to make. But Kayla wasn't a queen. She was a survivor. And survivors didn't play by the rules. "I choose neither," she said. The crowd murmured. "That is not an option," the master said. "I'm making it one." Kayla turned to Draven. "You said this trial was about heart, about proving I'm worthy. Well, here's my answer. I won't kill an innocent person to prove anything to anyone. If that makes me unworthy, fine. But I won't become a monster to wear a crown." Draven stared at her. The crowd was silent. Then slowly Draven smiled. "The trial is past," he said. "What?" The master looked shocked. "Your Majesty, she didn't choose." "She chose mercy, compassion. She chose to value life over power." Draven's voice rang out. That is the heart of a true ruler. The trial is past. The crowd erupted. Some cheered, some protested, but the noise was deafening. Kayla stood there, shaking, barely able to process what had just happened. Draven stepped close. Well done. I didn't do anything. You did everything. He took her hand, raising it high. I present to you Kayla Thorne, my mate, your future queen. The cheers grew louder, but not everyone was cheering. In the back of the crowd, Kayla saw faces twisted with anger, with hate. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. Later that night, Kayla finally had a moment alone. She sat in her room, staring at the fire, trying to make sense of everything. A knock at the door. Come in, she called, too tired to care who it was. Mira entered, closing the door behind her. Are you okay? I don't know. Mira sat beside her. You were amazing today. I was lucky. You were brave. Kayla looked at her sister. I almost got us both killed. But you didn't. Mira took her hand. You saved us. Again. Kayla's throat tightened. I don't know how to do this, Mira. Be a queen. Lead people. You're Kayla. That's enough. Before Kayla could respond, the door burst open. A guard stumbled in, blood streaming from a wound in his side. Attack, he gasped. Eastern wall. They're inside. He collapsed. Kayla was on her feet instantly. Who's inside? But she already knew. The enemies Draven had warned her about. They'd come for her, and they weren't alone. Kayla ran. Not a way toward. She burst into the corridor, Mira screaming behind her to wait, to be careful. But Kayla couldn't wait. The citadel was under attack, and she was done hiding. Guards rushed past her, weapons drawn, shouting orders. The clash of steel echoed from somewhere below. Screams, the acrid smell of smoke. Kayla grabbed a passing soldier. Where's the king? Eastern wall, my lady. She was already running. The eastern wall was chaos. Bodies lay sprawled on the stone. Guards, attackers, she couldn't tell which. Fire licked at the wooden scaffolding. The gate had been breached, the massive doors hanging off their hinges, and through the opening poured soldiers in black armor marked with a crimson wolf. Kayla's blood went cold. She knew that symbol. Everyone in Valdrin knew it. The Bloodstone clan, raiders from the northern wastes. They took what they wanted and burned the rest. In the center of the fighting, she saw Draven. He moved like death itself, his sword cutting through attackers with brutal efficiency. But there were too many. For every one he killed, 2 more took their place. Kayla didn't think. She shifted. The transformation was faster this time, smoother. Her bones cracked and reformed, her senses exploded outward, and then she was the wolf, massive and silver and furious. She leaped into the fray. The first raider she hit didn't see her coming. Her jaws closed around his sword arm, and she felt bones snap. He screamed. She threw him aside and lunged at the next one. The raiders fell back, shouting in confusion. Silver wolf! Kill it! But killing a silver wolf wasn't easy. Kayla was faster than them, stronger, and right now she was angry enough to tear through an army. She moved through them like a storm, claws ripping through armor, teeth finding throats. Draven saw her. Their eyes met across the battlefield. He nodded once, then turned back to his own fight. They worked in tandem, without speaking. Draven held the center, his sword a blur. Kayla circled the edges, cutting down anyone who tried to flank him. Slowly, impossibly, they started to push the raiders back, but then a horn sounded. 3 long blasts. The raiders retreated suddenly, pulling back through the broken gate. Within seconds, they were gone, vanishing into the darkness beyond the walls. The citadel guards started to cheer, but Draven held up a hand. Hold, he shouted. This isn't over. Seal the gate. Get the wounded to the healers. I want patrols on every wall. An explosion rocked the western side of the citadel. Kayla shifted back to human form, naked and gasping. Someone threw a cloak over her. It's a diversion, Draven said, his voice tight. They wanted us focused here while they... Another explosion. This one, from the north. They're hitting us from all sides, one of the commanders said, panic creeping into his voice. Draven's jaw tightened. He looked at Kayla. Can you shift again? Yes. Then I need you on the western wall. Take whatever guards you can and hold it. What about you? I'll take the north. He grabbed her shoulders. Don't die. You either. He kissed her, hard and fast, then pulled away. Go. Kayla ran. Sat. The western wall was already overrun by the time she got there. Raiders poured through a massive hole in the fortifications and the guards were falling back, overwhelmed. Kayla shifted mid-stride and hit the raiders like a battering ram. She fought with everything she had. No strategy, no finesse, just raw fury and desperation. Her claws tore through flesh. Her teeth found necks. Blood sprayed hot across her fur. But there were so many. A blade caught her shoulder. Pain exploded through her. She yelped, stumbling, and a raider raised his axe. An arrow took him through the throat. Kayla looked up to see Mira on a nearby tower, holding a bow with shaking hands. I told you to stay in your room, Kayla wanted to shout, but it came out as a growl. Mira knocked another arrow. And I never listen. She fired again, taking down a raider who was about to stab a fallen guard. Kayla didn't have time to argue. She threw herself back into the fight. Around her, the guards started to rally. Seeing the silver wolf, seeing their future queen fighting beside them, seemed to light something in them. They pushed harder, fought fiercer. And slowly, incredibly, the tide began to turn. A raider captain stepped forward, bigger than the others, wearing spiked armor and wielding a massive warhammer. I'll take the beast, he growled. The rest of you, finish the guards. He swung the hammer. Kayla dodged, but barely. The weapon crashed into the stone where she'd been standing, leaving a crater. She circled him, looking for an opening. He swung again. She ducked under it and lunged for his legs. Her teeth closed around his knee and she bit down hard. The captain roared, bringing the hammer down on her back. Pain exploded through her spine. Her vision went white. She lost her grip, stumbling backward. The captain limped forward, raising the hammer for a killing blow. Mira's arrow caught him in the eye. He dropped. Kayla shifted back, gasping, her back screaming in agony. Kayla! Mira was suddenly there, helping her up. Can you move? I have to, because the raiders weren't done. They were regrouping, preparing for another assault. Kayla looked at the guards, exhausted, wounded, barely holding together. They couldn't win this by fighting. They needed something else. An idea formed. Desperate, insane. Mira, Kayla said, how many arrows do you have left? Maybe 10? I need you to light them on fire. Mira's eyes widened. What? The raiders came through the forest, right? There's dry wood everywhere. If we set it ablaze, we'll trap them between the fire and the walls. Exactly. Mira looked at the forest beyond the breach. That's going to spread fast. It could reach the citadel. Then we put it out after, but right now we need to stop them. Kayla grabbed her sister's shoulders. Can you do it? Mira swallowed hard, then nodded. Yes. It took precious minutes to prepare. The guards brought torches. Mira wrapped cloth around her arrows and dipped them in oil. The raiders were advancing again, shouting war cries, raising weapons. Now! Kayla shouted. Mira fired. The first arrow arced through the air and struck a tree. Flames erupted instantly, spreading to the dry branches. She fired again and again. Within seconds, a wall of fire roared to life between the raiders and the citadel. The raiders screamed, caught between the inferno and the guards. Some tried to run back into the forest. Others charged forward, desperate to escape the flames. The guards met them with steel. Kayla shifted one more time, ignoring the agony in her back, and threw herself into the final push. It was over in minutes. The raiders who didn't burn were cut down. The rest fled into the night. Kayla collapsed against the wall, shifting back to human form. Her whole body shook. Blood matted her hair. Her back felt like it was on fire. But they'd won. Mira dropped down beside her, soot-stained and exhausted. You're insane. Runs in the family, Kayla managed. Then Draven was there, pulling her into his arms. He was covered in blood. None of it his, she hoped. You're hurt, he said. I'll live. You set the forest on fire. It was necessary. He laughed. It was a broken, relieved sound. You're going to give me a heart attack. Get used to it. He held her tighter. Around them, the guards were cheering, extinguishing the flames, tending to the wounded. The battle was over. But when Kayla looked toward the northern wall, her blood ran cold. A figure stood on the ramparts, tall, cloaked, watching. Then they were gone. "Did you see that?" she asked Draven. "See what?" "There was someone—" But when she looked again, the ramparts were empty. Maybe she'd imagined it, or maybe the real threat hadn't shown itself yet. Son, the Citadel spent the next 2 days recovering. The dead were counted. 37 guards, 12 servants, an entire family who had been sheltering in the wrong place when the Western Wall was breached. Kayla attended every funeral. She didn't have to. Draven said queens didn't usually, but she refused to hide. These people had died defending her. The least she could do was bear witness. On the third day, a messenger arrived. He was from the Eastern Kingdoms, wearing the colors of House Morven. He carried a sealed letter addressed to King Draven. Draven read it in his study, his expression growing darker with every line. "What is it?" Kayla asked. He handed her the letter. She read it twice, not believing the words the first time. King Draven Varkos. Congratulations on surviving the recent unpleasantness. Consider it a demonstration of what's to come if you do not comply with our terms. The Silver Wolf belongs to us. Her bloodline was stolen from House Morven 3 generations ago, and we demand her return. Surrender her within 1 month, or we will take her by force. You have seen what a small raiding party can do. Imagine what an army can accomplish. Choose wisely. Lord Kael Morven. Kayla's hands shook. This is a declaration of war, Draven finished quietly. If I refuse. You can't seriously be considering— I'm not. His voice was steel. You're not going anywhere. But Morven has the largest army in the Eastern Kingdoms. If he marches on Valdrin, then we fight. We'd lose. Kayla set down the letter. Then we need allies. Who? The southern clans won't risk war with Morven. The western territories are too far to help in time, and the northern kingdoms— He stopped. What about the northern kingdoms? Draven looked at her. They hate Morven, have for centuries. There's a blood feud going back generations. Then they'd help us. Maybe. If we give them something they want. Like what? Draven hesitated. A marriage alliance. Kayla's stomach dropped. You mean, not us. The bond makes that impossible. But if we could offer them another connection to the throne— He stopped, reading her expression. We'll find another way. What if there isn't one? Then we fight with what we have. Draven moved to the window. I won't let Morven take you. I don't care what it costs. Kayla joined him, looking out at the city. Why? Why what? Why fight for me? I'm nobody. You could find another mate eventually, someone who doesn't bring war to your doorstep. Draven turned to her. You're not nobody. You're Kayla. You're brave and stubborn and infuriating. You set forests on fire and fight battles you have no business winning, and you're mine. His hand cupped her face. I'm not giving you up. Not to Morven. Not to anyone. Kayla's throat tightened. I don't know how to be what you need. You already are. He kissed her. This time, it wasn't gentle. It was desperate and claiming and full of everything they hadn't said. Kayla kissed him back, her hands fisting in his shirt, the bond singing between them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Draven pressed his forehead to hers. We'll figure this out, he said. Together? Together, Alts. The War Council met that evening. Every commander, every advisor, every noble with military experience crowded into the strategy room. Kayla stood beside Draven, still feeling out of place among the hardened warriors and cunning politicians. But when Draven introduced her as his co-regent, no one objected. Morven has given us 1 month, Draven said, laying out a map. We need to use that time to fortify our defenses and seek allies. The southern clans won't help, Commander Vessa said. She'd been released from the dungeons after the raid, her challenge against Kayla apparently forgiven in light of the larger threat. They're too afraid of Morven's reach. What about the western territories? Someone else asked. Too isolated. By the time they mobilize, the war would be over. Then we're on our own, a gray-haired advisor said grimly. He'd see it. Not necessarily. All eyes turned to Kayla. She swallowed, suddenly aware of how quiet the room had gotten. What if we went to the outcasts? Confused silence. What outcasts? Draven asked. The rejected clans, the exiled families, the people living in the borderlands because they had nowhere else to go. Kayla looked around the room. Morven's armies are disciplined and well-trained, but the outcasts? They know how to survive, how to fight dirty, how to win when they shouldn't. You want to build an army of refugees? Vesa sounded incredulous. I want to build an army of survivors. Kayla's voice grew stronger. People who have nothing to lose and everything to fight for. Give them a reason, give them hope, and they'll fight harder than any noble soldier. The room erupted in argument. It's madness. They have no training. We'd be putting weapons in the hands of criminals. Enough! Draven's voice cut through the noise. He looked at Kayla. Could you do it? Rally them? Yes. How? Kayla thought of the eastern gate, of kneeling in the snow with Mira dying in her arms, of being turned away, cast out, forgotten. I tell them the truth, she said, that I was one of them, that Valdrin threw me away. But now I'm standing here and I'm offering them a choice, die in the cold or fight for something better. Draven studied her face. Then he nodded. Do it. The advisors protested, but Draven silenced them with a look. Kayla will lead a delegation to the borderlands. She'll have 1 week to bring back as many as she can. He turned to Vesa. You'll go with her. Keep her safe. Vesa looked like she wanted to argue, but she nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. The rest of you, start preparing the citadel for siege. If this fails, we'll need to hold out as long as possible. Draven's eyes swept the room. Dismissed. The council filed out. When they were alone, Draven pulled Kayla aside. Are you sure about this? No, but it's the only chance we have. If it goes wrong, then we'll figure something else out. She tried to smile. We're getting good at that. Draven didn't smile back. Kayla, if Morven's forces find you outside these walls, I'll be careful. Promise me. I promise. He kissed her forehead. 1 week, then you come back. 1 week, she agreed. They left at dawn. Kayla, Vesa, and 20 hand-picked guards rode toward the borderlands. The journey would take 2 days through frozen wilderness. Mira had wanted to come, but Kayla refused. Someone needed to stay safe. Someone needed to survive if this all went wrong. The borderlands were exactly as Kayla remembered, harsh, unforgiving, and full of desperate people clinging to survival. They found the first camp around midday, 30 people, maybe, living in tents made of scavenged fabric, huddled around fires that barely gave off heat. Kayla dismounted and walked into the camp alone. The refugees stared at her. Some recognized her. Whispers spread. That's her, the Omega who became queen. The Silver Wolf. What's she doing here? Kayla stopped in the center of the camp. I came to make you an offer. An old woman stepped forward, her face weathered and suspicious. What kind of offer? Valdrin is going to war. We need soldiers, and I need people who know what it's like to fight when you have nothing. Kayla looked around at the gaunt faces, the hollow eyes. I'm offering you a choice. Come with me. Train. Fight. And if we win, you'll have a place in Valdrin, a real place, not as outcasts, but as citizens. And if we lose, someone called out, then we die together. Kayla's voice was steady. But at least we'll die fighting, not freezing, not starving. Fighting. Silence. Then the old woman laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. You think we're stupid enough to die for a kingdom that threw us out? No, I think you're smart enough to see an opportunity when it's offered. Kayla met her eyes. I was you. 6 days ago, I was kneeling in the snow outside the eastern gate, begging to be let in. They turned me away, and if things had gone differently, I'd be dead right now. But you're not, the woman said. No. I fought. I survived. And now I'm here, offering you the same chance I got. Kayla's voice dropped. I know you don't trust me. I know you don't owe Valdrin anything, but this isn't about Valdrin. This is about proving that we matter, that people like us don't just survive, we win. The old woman studied her for a long time, then she nodded. I'll go. Slowly, others stepped forward. Not all of them, but enough. By the time they left the camp, Kayla had recruited 15 people. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Over the next 5 days, they visited 12 more camps. Some refused outright. Some attacked them, thinking it was a trap. But at each one, a few more joined. By the end of the week, Kayla had nearly 200. They were ragged, untrained, and half-starved. But they were willing. On the journey back to the Citadel, Vesa rode beside her. "I underestimated you," the commander said quietly. Kayla glanced at her. "Is that an apology?" "It's an observation." Vesa paused. "When I challenged you, I thought you were weak. Just another Omega playing at power. And now? Now I think you're the most dangerous person I've ever met." Vesa's lips quirked. "And I'm glad you're on our side." Kayla didn't know what to say to that. They rode in silence for a while. Then Vesa spoke again. "They're going to follow you, you know, not Draven. You." "I don't want that. Doesn't matter. You're already their symbol. The Omega who became a queen, the outcast who came back." Vesa looked at her. "That's more powerful than any crown." Kayla thought about that as the Citadel came into view. Maybe Vesa was right. Maybe this was never about proving herself to the court. Maybe it was about proving to people like her, the forgotten, the rejected, that they could be more. When they reached the gates, Draven was waiting. He took one look at the crowd behind Kayla, and his eyes widened. "You did it," he said. "We did it." Kayla dismounted, her legs shaking with exhaustion. "They're ready to fight." Draven pulled her into his arms. "I knew you would." Behind them, the refugees, no, the soldiers, marched through the gates. For the first time in days, Kayla felt something like hope. But as the gates closed behind them, she saw movement in the tree line, figures watching, waiting. And she knew the real war hadn't even started yet. The figures in the tree line didn't move. Kayla watched them from atop the wall, her breath misting in the cold air. Behind her, the Citadel buzzed with activity, the new recruits being fed, housed, armed. Draven's commanders were already organizing them into units, teaching them formations they'd never learned. But Kayla couldn't look away from the trees. "How many do you think?" Vesa asked beside her. "Scouts. Maybe a dozen." Kayla's eyes narrowed. "They're watching our numbers, our defenses." "Morven's forces? Who else?" Vesa's hand went to her sword. "We could send a patrol, drive them off." "No, let them watch." Kayla turned away from the wall. "Let them see what we're building. Let them report back that Valdrin isn't afraid." Vesa smiled grimly. "You're learning." "I had good teachers." They descended the wall together. The courtyard was full of activity. Smiths hammering weapons, healers stockpiling supplies, builders reinforcing weak points in the fortifications. And in the center of it all, the recruits from the borderlands drilled with wooden swords, their movements clumsy but determined. Kayla watched a young man, barely 18, get knocked down for the third time. He got back up, jaw set, and raised his practice blade again. That's what they all had, that refusal to stay down. It reminded her of herself. "Kayla," Draven's voice cut through her thoughts. He approached from the main hall, a rolled parchment in his hand. His expression was dark. "What is it?" He handed her the parchment. "Another message, from Morven." Kayla unrolled it, scanning the words. 3 weeks remain. I trust you are preparing your goodbyes. When my army arrives, there will be no mercy for those who shelter stolen property. However, I am not unreasonable. Surrender the Silver Wolf before the deadline, and I will spare your city. Your people need not die for your stubbornness. The choice is yours." Kayla crumpled the parchment. "He's trying to turn them against me." "It might work," Draven said quietly. "If the people believe they're dying because of you, then we don't let them believe that." Kayla looked at him. "I need to address the city, all of it, not just the court." Draven studied her. "Are you sure?" "No. But when has that stopped me?" Despite everything, he almost smiled. They organized it for the next day. The entire city gathered in the main square, thousands of people crammed into every available space. Merchants, farmers, soldiers, nobles. Even the refugees from the borderlands stood in the back, watching warily. Kayla stood on the platform beside Draven, her heart hammering. She'd never spoken to this many people before, never had this many eyes on her. Draven squeezed her hand once, then stepped forward. "People of Valdrin," he called, his voice carrying across the square. "You know why we've gathered. War is coming. Lord Morven of the Eastern Kingdoms has demanded we surrender our queen, and threatened destruction if we refuse." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Some of you are afraid," Draven continued. "That's natural. Morven's armies are vast, his resources endless, and he's given us a choice: surrender one person or watch our city burn." The murmurs grew louder, angrier. "But I want you to hear from that person directly." Draven stepped aside. "Queen Kayla." The title still sounded strange to Kayla's ears. She stepped forward. For a moment she couldn't speak. The crowd was too big, too overwhelming. Then she saw a face in the front row. The old woman from the first Borderland camp. The one who'd agreed to come. The woman nodded once. Kayla found her voice. "3 weeks ago I was dying in the snow outside your gates," she began. Her voice shook, but she pushed through it. "I had nothing. No home. No clan. No hope. Just my sister, who was sick, and the belief that maybe, just maybe, someone inside these walls would help." The square was silent. "Your guards turned me away, called me worthless, an omega, an outcast." Kayla's hands curled into fists. "And they were right by the standards of this kingdom. I had no bloodline, no status, nothing that mattered." She paused, meeting eyes throughout the crowd. "But then something changed. The king recognized me as his mate, and suddenly, I mattered. Suddenly, I had value." Her voice hardened. "Not because I was different, but because someone with power decided I was worth something." Uncomfortable shifting in the crowd. "That's wrong," Kayla said flatly. "My worth didn't change because a king claimed me. It was always there. Just like the worth of every person standing in the Borderlands right now, freezing and starving because this kingdom decided they didn't matter." "What's your point?" someone shouted from the crowd. "My point is this. Morven wants me because of what I am, a silver wolf, a symbol of power he thinks he owns." Kayla's eyes blazed. "But I'm not property. I'm not a bargaining chip. I'm a person. And if Valdrin is the kind of kingdom that trades people like livestock, then maybe it deserves to burn." Gasps, shouts, angry voices. Draven tensed beside her, but didn't intervene. "But I don't think that's what Valdrin is," Kayla continued, raising her voice. "I think it's better than that. I think the people here, the real people, not the nobles playing politics, understand that some things are worth fighting for. That freedom matters. That standing up to bullies matters." She took a breath. "Morven's army is coming whether you surrender me or not. Because this isn't really about me. It's about him showing the world what happens when you defy him. If you give me up, he'll find another excuse, another demand, and you'll keep surrendering pieces of yourselves until there's nothing left." The square was quieter now, listening. "So here's what I'm offering," Kayla said. "Fight with me. Not for me, with me. Fight for a Valdrin that doesn't throw people away, that doesn't measure worth by bloodlines and titles, that stands together, outcasts and nobles alike, and tells tyrants like Morven that we don't bow." She paused. "Or don't. I'll leave tonight if that's what you want. I won't let this city burn for my pride." Her voice dropped. "But I think you're braver than that. I think you're stronger than Morven knows. And I think if we stand together, we can win." Silence. Then from the back of the crowd, someone started clapping. It was the old woman from the Borderlands. Others joined her, slowly at first, then faster. The applause spread through the square like wildfire. Not everyone joined in. Kayla could see pockets of resistance, faces twisted with doubt or in anger. But enough people were clapping that it drowned out the dissenters. Draven stepped beside her, his hand finding hers. "Well said," he murmured. Kayla's legs were shaking. "Did it work?" "Look around." She did. People were cheering now, stamping their feet, chanting her name. It was terrifying and exhilarating and completely overwhelming. "Come on," Draven said quietly, before they rushed the platform. They descended together, guards forming a protective circle around them. As they pushed through the crowd, people reached out to touch Kayla's hand, her cloak. "We'll fight for you, my queen. Show Morven what Valdrin's made of." Kayla nodded to each of them, trying not to cry. This was real. They were really going to fight, and she'd just made sure they understood why. The next 2 weeks were brutal, training from dawn until dusk. Every able-bodied person in the city learned to hold a weapon, to stand in formation, to follow orders under pressure. Kayla trained alongside them. She didn't have to. Draven's advisors made that clear. Queens didn't fight in the mud with common soldiers. But Kayla wasn't like other queens. She learned to fight in human form, sword work from Vesa, hand-to-hand combat from the guards, tactics from Draven himself. And she learned to control her shift, to call the wolf when she needed it, instead of letting rage decide. It wasn't easy. The transformation still hurt, still felt like her body was tearing itself apart and rebuilding wrong. But she got faster, stronger. By the end of the second week, she could shift in under 3 seconds. "You're a natural," Vesa said, watching Kayla demolish a practice dummy in wolf form. "Most shifters take years to achieve that kind of control." Kayla shifted back, panting. "I don't have years." "No, you don't." Vesa handed her a water skin. "Morven's scouts are getting closer. We spotted them within a mile of the eastern wall yesterday." "How long until the main force arrives?" 3 days. Maybe 4. Kayla drank deeply, her mind racing. "Are we ready?" "As ready as we'll ever be." Vesa's expression was grim. "But Kayla, you need to understand. We're outnumbered 3-1, maybe worse. Training and determination can only compensate for so much." "I know." "Do you?" Vesa stepped closer. "Because when that army shows up, a lot of people are going to die. People who believed in you, who followed you." "I know," Kayla repeated, more forcefully. "You think I don't carry that? Every face I see in the training yard, I wonder if they'll survive. And if they don't? Then I'll remember them." Kayla's voice was steel. "And I'll make sure Morven regrets ever coming here." Vesa studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Good. Because that's what they need to hear. Not a queen who's afraid, a queen who's ready to burn the world down if it threatens her people." She walked away. Kayla stood in the training yard, watching the sun set over the citadel walls. 3 days. She had 3 days to prepare for the fight of her life. Morven's army arrived on the morning of the 4th day. The sentries spotted them at dawn, a black mass moving across the frozen plains like a stain spreading across snow. Kayla stood on the eastern wall, watching them come. There were thousands, tens of thousands. Their banners snapped in the wind, crimson wolves on black fields. "That's a lot of soldiers," Mira said quietly beside her. "Yeah." "Are we going to die?" Kayla looked at her sister. Mira had insisted on staying in the citadel, on fighting if it came to that. Kayla had tried to send her away, but Mira was as stubborn as she was. "Probably," Kayla said honestly. "Oh, but we're going to take a lot of them with us." Mira almost smiled. "That's comforting." "I try." Draven joined them on the wall, his armor gleaming in the weak sunlight. "They're setting up camp, half a mile out." "That'd be smart," Kayla said. "Out of arrow range, but close enough to intimidate us." "It's working," someone muttered behind them. Kayla turned to see Commander Vesa approaching, her expression tight. "A rider just came in under white flag," Vesa said. "Morven wants to parley." "Of course he does," Draven said. "He wants to see if we'll surrender before he has to commit to a siege." "Will you meet with him?" Kayla asked. "We will," Draven corrected. "Both of us." "Is that wise?" Vesa asked. "If he takes you both hostage—" "He won't." Draven's voice was confident. "Morven's a lot of things, but he's not stupid. Breaking parley would turn every kingdom in the realm against him. He won't risk that." "Then we go," Kayla said. An hour later, they rode out to meet him. Kayla, Draven, and a guard of 20 soldiers rode across the snow to where Morven's camp had been erected. Massive tents in black and crimson dominated the landscape. Soldiers watched them pass, silent and menacing. In the center of the camp, a pavilion had been set up. Lord Kael Morven waited inside. He was younger than Kayla expected. Maybe 40, with silver streaking his dark hair and eyes like chips of ice. He wore fine armor etched with gold, and a smile that made Kayla's skin crawl. "King Draven," he said pleasantly, "how good of you to come." "Lord Morven." Draven's tone was neutral. "You wanted to talk, so talk." Morven's eyes slid to Kayla. "And you brought my property. How considerate." "I'm not your property," Kayla said evenly. "No?" Morven stepped closer. "Your great-grandmother was a Morven. Did you know that? She fled with a stolen relic and disappeared into the wilderness. We thought the bloodline lost." His smile widened. "Imagine my surprise when reports started coming in of a silver wolf appearing in Valdrin, a bloodline that belongs to my house." "People aren't bloodlines," Kayla said, "and they don't belong to anyone," spoken like someone who's never had real power. Morven turned back to Draven. "I'll make this simple. Give her to me. My scholars will study her abilities, perhaps breed her with suitable stock to strengthen the line. In exchange, I'll withdraw my forces, and Valdrin keeps its sovereignty." Kayla's hands clenched. "Breed me?" "You're a resource," Morven said, as if explaining something obvious, a valuable one. It would be wasteful not to utilize you properly. Draven's sword was half out of its sheath before Kayla put a hand on his arm. "Don't," she said quietly. I know what he said." Kayla looked at Morven. "Here's my counter-offer. Leave, now, before we kill every single one of your soldiers and mount your head on a spike outside our gates." Morven laughed. "Charming. But empty threats won't save you. I have 10,000 soldiers. You have, what, 3? And most of those are untrained rabble from the borderlands. Those untrained rabble have more reason to fight than your soldiers ever will," Kayla shot back. "They're fighting for their lives, their freedom. What are your men fighting for? Your ego?" Morven's smile faded. "They're fighting because I pay them, and because I'll execute anyone who deserts." "That's not loyalty. That's fear." Kayla stepped forward. "And fear breaks. We've seen it before. We'll see it again. Brave words from someone who's about to watch her kingdom burn." Morven turned to Draven. "You have until sunset to reconsider. After that, we attack. And when we breach your walls, and we will, I'll make sure she watches everyone she cares about die before I take her." Draven's jaw tightened. "We're done here." They turned to leave. "One more thing," Morven called. "That fire trick you pulled on the Bloodstone Raiders? Clever. But it won't work on my forces. We've been fighting in these conditions for generations. A little fire doesn't scare us." Kayla looked back at him. "Good. Then you won't mind dying in one." They rode back to the Citadel in tense silence. When they reached the gates, Draven finally spoke. "He's trying to get in your head. I know." "Don't let him." "I won't." Kayla dismounted, handing her reins to a stable hand. "But he's right about one thing. We can't win a straight fight." "Then we don't fight straight." Kayla looked at him. "What do you mean?" Draven's eyes gleamed. "You're not the only one who can set traps." "What?" They spent the rest of the day preparing. The plan was risky, insane actually, but it was the only chance they had. Morven's forces outnumbered them badly in a conventional battle, but in the frozen wilderness of Valdrin, numbers didn't matter as much as knowledge of the terrain, and Kayla's borderland recruits knew this land better than anyone. They dug pits along the likely approach routes, covering them with thin layers of snow and branches. They set tripwires connected to bells and alarms. They prepared barrels of oil to be lit and rolled down the slopes. And in the forest east of the Citadel, they prepared something special. "This is going to kill us if we get it wrong," Vesa said, watching the preparations. "Then we don't get it wrong," Kayla replied. As the sun began to set, Morven's army advanced. They came in formation, shields locked, moving with the precision of professional soldiers. Kayla watched from the eastern wall, her heart pounding. "Wait for it," Draven murmured beside her. The army reached the first line of traps. The ground gave way. Dozens of soldiers plunged into pits lined with sharpened stakes. Their screams echoed across the snow. The formation faltered but didn't break. Morven's commanders shouted orders, redirecting the troops around the pits. They hit the second line. Tripwires snapped, bells clanged, and from hidden positions, archers fired. Not many arrows. They didn't have enough for a sustained barrage, but enough to sow confusion. The formation began to break apart as soldiers scattered to avoid the projectiles. "Now," Draven said. From the forest, Kayla's borderland fighters emerged, not in formation. They didn't know how, but in small, fast-moving groups that darted in, struck, and vanished back into the trees. Guerrilla tactics. Morven's soldiers tried to pursue, but the snow was deep and they didn't know the terrain. They stumbled, fell, got separated from their units. And in the chaos, Kayla's people picked them apart. It wasn't enough to win, but it was enough to slow them down. By the time full dark fell, Morven's army had advanced less than half the distance to the citadel walls, and they'd lost over 500 soldiers. Kayla watched from the wall as they retreated to regroup, setting up defensive positions. "That bought us one night," Draven said. "Tomorrow, they'll come harder." "I know." Kayla's eyes found the forest where her fighters were regrouping. "But tonight, we got to hit them first. That matters." Draven pulled her close. "You did well. We're not done yet." "No, but you gave them hope, but that's worth more than you know." The second day was worse. Morven's forces came at dawn, and this time they didn't fall for the traps. They sent scouts ahead to find and disarm them. They moved slowly, methodically, refusing to be drawn into the forest. And when they reached the walls, they brought siege equipment, battering rams, ladders, towers. The fighting was brutal. Kayla fought in wolf form, leaping from the walls onto siege towers, tearing through soldiers, then retreating before they could surround her. But there were too many. The eastern gate buckled, then broke. Morven's soldiers poured through. Kayla shifted back to human, grabbing a fallen sword, and threw herself into the melee. Around her, Valdrin's defenders fought with everything they had. Vesa moved like a whirlwind, her blade cutting through attackers. Mira fired arrows from a tower until she ran out, then started throwing rocks. But they were being pushed back. Step by step, the enemy advanced deeper into the citadel. Kayla found herself cornered in the main courtyard, surrounded by enemy soldiers. She shifted, lunging. A crossbow bolt caught her in the side. Pain exploded through her. She stumbled, the shift reversing involuntarily. She hit the ground hard, blood spreading across the stone. Through blurring vision, she saw a soldier raise his sword. Draven appeared, cutting the man down. He dropped to his knees beside her. "Kayla." "I'm fine," she gasped, even though she wasn't. "You're hit." "I know." She gritted her teeth, forcing herself to sit up. The bolt was deep. Pulling it out would make the bleeding worse. So she snapped off the shaft instead and left the head in. Draven's eyes widened. "What are you—" "No time." Kayla stood, swaying. The world tilted, but she stayed upright. "We need to fall back to the inner citadel." "We'll be trapped." "We're already trapped. At least there, we can hold them longer." Draven's jaw tightened. Then he nodded, shouting orders. The retreat was chaos. Soldiers ran for the inner gates. Some didn't make it. Kayla saw people she'd trained, people she'd spoken with, cut down as they fled. She wanted to help them, but she could barely keep herself upright. They sealed the inner gates just as Morven's forces reached them. Inside, less than 1,000 defenders remained, maybe half of what they'd started with. Kayla leaned against a wall, breathing hard. Blood soaked her side. Mira was there suddenly, pressing cloth against the wound. "You're hurt." "I'm fine." "You're bleeding everywhere." "I'll heal." Kayla looked around at the survivors, exhausted, wounded, terrified. They'd lost. They all knew it. Morven's voice rang out from beyond the gates. "Last chance, Draven. Send out the wolf, and I'll spare whoever's left inside." Draven's hand found Kayla's. "Don't even think about it." "I could end this." "No." "Draven," I said no. His eyes were fierce. "We stand together. Or we fall together. That's final." Kayla wanted to argue, but the look in his eyes stopped her. She nodded. Draven turned to face his people. "They want us to give up, to surrender, to trade one life for the illusion of mercy." Silence. "But we don't surrender," Draven continued. "We don't bow to tyrants. We don't—" "Wait!" Kayla's eyes widened. "I have an idea." Everyone looked at her. "It's insane," she said. "And it probably won't work, but if it does—" "Tell me," Draven said. Kayla took a breath. "Morven thinks I'm valuable, that I'm some kind of prize." "Yes." "So what if I give him what he wants?" "Kayla—" "Not really," she interrupted, "but make him think I am. Draw him in close. And when he's vulnerable, she looked at Draven. We kill him. Silence. That's suicide, Vesa said flatly. Maybe, but if Morven dies, his army falls apart. They're only here because he's paying them. Without him, they have no reason to fight. And how exactly do you plan to get close enough to kill him? Vesa demanded. I walk out there and surrender. He'll want to gloat, to prove he won. That's when we strike. He'll have guards. Then we kill them too. Kayla met Vesa's eyes. Do you have a better plan? No one answered. Draven was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice rough. I'm going with you. No. Yes. His tone left no room for argument. You're not doing this alone. Kayla wanted to protest, but she saw the determination in his face. Fine, she said, but we do it my way. They waited until nightfall. Then Kayla and Draven walked out of the inner citadel, hands raised in apparent surrender. Morven's soldiers surrounded them immediately, weapons drawn. Take us to Morven, Kayla said. They were marched through the camp to Morven's command tent. He sat on a carved chair like a throne, wine in hand, looking entirely too pleased with himself. Well, he said, I didn't think you'd actually do it. We're done fighting, Kayla said. Her voice was flat, defeated. Morven's smile widened. Smart choice. Though it's too late to spare the city, my men have earned their plunder. They'll take the citadel tomorrow at dawn. But you'll spare the people inside, Draven said tightly. Some of them. Maybe. Morven stood, approaching Kyla. But first, let's discuss terms. You belong to me now. You understand that, yes? Yes, Kayla said quietly. Morven reached out, tilting her chin up. Good. I'm going to enjoy breaking that defiant spirit of yours. It'll be entertaining to watch you. Kayla's hand shot up, a hidden dagger appearing from her sleeve. She drove it into Morven's throat. His eyes went wide. Blood spurted. Chaos erupted. Draven's sword was already out, cutting through the guards who rushed them. Kayla pulled the dagger free and stabbed again, this time catching a soldier who'd lunged at her. The wound in her side screamed. She ignored it. Morven collapsed, choking on his own blood. Kill them, someone shouted. More guards poured into the tent. This was the part where the plan fell apart. Kayla and Draven fought back to back, but there were too many. Blades cut at them from all sides. Kayla felt steel bite into her arm, her leg. She was going to die here. They both were. Then a horn sounded, not from Morven's camp, from the forest. Kayla's borderland fighters surged out of the trees, screaming war cries. They'd been waiting, hidden, for the signal. Morven's forces, leaderless and confused, tried to organize a defense. It didn't work. The camp descended into chaos. Soldiers fought soldiers in the dark, not knowing who was enemy and who was ally. Fires broke out. Tents collapsed. And in the center of it all, Kayla and Draven cut their way free. By the time the sun rose, Morven's army was scattered. Some fled into the wilderness. Others surrendered. A few hundred regrouped and tried to mount a counterattack, but Valdrin's forces, bolstered by the borderland fighters, crushed them. It was over. Kayla stood in the ruins of Morven's camp, covered in blood, barely able to stand. Draven caught her as her legs gave out. You did it, he said, his voice hoarse. You crazy, brilliant woman. You did it. Kayla tried to respond, but the world was spinning. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was Mira's face, tears streaming down her cheeks. And she thought, we won. Kayla woke 3 days later. She was in the healer's wing, bandaged and bruised and feeling like she'd been trampled by a herd of horses. Mira sat beside her bed, asleep in a chair. Kayla tried to sit up. Pain shot through every part of her body, and she gasped. Mira jerked awake. Kayla! Hey, Kayla croaked. Mira burst into tears, grabbing her hand. You idiot! You stupid, reckless idiot! I'm fine. You almost died. Again. Mira wiped her eyes furiously. The healer said if the blade had gone half an inch deeper, but it didn't. Kayla squeezed her sister's hand. I'm okay. You're not okay. Mira stopped, taking a shaky breath. But you're alive. That's what matters. Footsteps approached. Draven entered, looking exhausted but whole. "You're awake," he said, relief flooding his face. "Apparently." Kayla's voice was rough. "What did I miss?" Morven's army scattered. The survivors have been sent back to the Eastern Kingdoms with a message. Valdrin is not to be threatened. Draven sat on the edge of her bed. "We lost over 600 people, but we won." Kayla closed her eyes. 600 lives. Gone because she'd existed. "Don't," Draven said quietly, reading her expression. "Don't carry that. They chose to fight. You gave them that choice. You didn't force anyone. Doesn't make it easier." "No, it doesn't." He took her hand. "But you honored them by making their sacrifice mean something. Valdrin is free. The borderlands are being integrated into the kingdom as full citizens. And you," he paused, "you're a legend now. The Omega who became a queen and destroyed an army." Kayla opened her eyes. "I don't want to be a legend. I just want to rest." "Then rest." Draven leaned down, kissing her forehead. "We'll handle the rest, Ma." The coronation happened 2 weeks later. Kayla stood in the great hall, wearing a silver gown that felt absurdly fancy, while a crown, delicate and made of woven silver, was placed on her head. The hall erupted in cheers. She looked out at the faces. Nobles who'd once sneered at her now bowed. Soldiers who'd fought beside her smiled. And in the back, the borderland fighters, her people, stood tall and proud. Vesa stepped forward, kneeling. "Your Majesty, I pledge my sword and my life to your service." Others followed. One by one, the commanders and nobles knelt. Kayla felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them back. When it was done, Draven took her hand. "How does it feel?" "Surreal," she admitted. "A month ago I was dying in the snow. Now I'm a queen." "Yeah." She looked at him. "Think I'll be any good at it?" "I know you will." Draven's smile was soft. "Because you're not doing it for power. You're doing it for them." He nodded toward the crowd. Kayla followed his gaze, saw hope in their eyes. Trust. She'd earned that. Not through bloodlines or titles or ancient bonds, through fighting beside them, bleeding with them, proving that she was one of them. "Speech," someone called from the crowd. Kayla's stomach dropped. "I have to give a speech?" "You're the queen," Draven said, amused. "It's traditional." "I hate traditions." "I know." Kayla took a deep breath and stepped forward. The hall fell silent. "I don't have fancy words," she began. "I'm not good at speeches, but I want you to know this. I see you, all of you, the ones who fought, the ones who were afraid but stayed anyway, the ones who lost people they loved." Her voice grew stronger. "Valdrin isn't perfect. We've got a long way to go. But together, outcasts and nobles, soldiers and farmers, all of us, we can build something better. Something where people aren't thrown away because they don't fit. Where worth isn't measured by bloodlines." She paused. "I'm proof that anyone can rise, that the girl freezing in the snow can become a queen. And if I can do it," she smiled, "then anything is possible." The hall erupted. Not just applause. Cheers. Stamping feet, shouted affirmations. Kayla stood there, overwhelmed, as the noise washed over her. Draven's hand found hers. "Well said," he murmured. "Thanks." She looked at him. "So what now?" "Now?" Draven's smile was warm. "We rebuild. We heal. We live. Together? Together." 6 months later, Kayla stood on the eastern wall, watching the sun rise over Valdrin. The citadel had been rebuilt. The scars of war were fading, though not forgotten. Monuments had been erected for the fallen, their names carved in stone, a promise that they'd be remembered. Mira joined her on the wall, carrying 2 mugs of tea. "Thought you could use this," she said, handing one over. "Thanks." Kayla sipped gratefully. "Can't sleep?" "Not really. You?" "Same." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city wake up. "Do you ever regret it?" Mira asked quietly. "Staying? Fighting?" Kayla thought about it. No, it was hard. It hurt, but it was worth it. Even knowing what you know now, all the pain, the loss, even then, Kayla looked at her sister. We're alive, Mira. We're safe. We have a home. That's more than I ever thought we'd have. Mira smiled. Yeah, it is. Footsteps approached. Draven emerged from the stairwell, looking half asleep but determined. I should have known you'd both be up here, he said. Couldn't sleep, Kayla said. Neither could I. He moved to stand beside her, wrapping an arm around her waist. Too much on my mind. Anything I can help with? Maybe. He was quiet for a moment. The southern clans want to negotiate a trade agreement. The western territories are asking for military support against raiders, and there's a delegation from the northern kingdoms requesting an audience. Sounds like a lot. It is. He looked at her. Think you're ready for it? Kayla smiled. No, but I'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, Draven corrected. Right. We. The sun crested the horizon, bathing the city in golden light. Somewhere below, a child laughed. A merchant called out his wares. Life went on. Kayla thought of the girl she'd been, desperate, broken, abandoned. That girl was still part of her, always would be. But she wasn't defined by that anymore. She was Kayla Thorne, Queen of Valdrin, the Silver Wolf, the woman who'd survived betrayal and built something better. And she wasn't done yet, not by a long shot. Come on, she said, turning away from the wall. We've got work to do. Draven and Mira followed her down the stairs, back into the citadel, back into their lives. Together. The way it was always meant to be.